Cool. Hi, my name is Shrishti. I am the YSPN lead for Melbourne. And today I have with me Harjot, who will be co-facilitating with me. So hello there. Just to settle in and warm up a little bit, it'll be awesome to just get people to just write their names and the cities they're tuning in from just in the comment section. And that way we can just make sure that the chat actually works as well. Kay from Melbourne, hello. Amrit from Brisbane, hello.
A lot of energy.
Awesome, we've got Clay from Sydney, hello. Awesome, this is great, thank you guys. Just a few housekeeping rules. So this webinar is being recorded. So you can access it again on our YSPN social media platforms. So you can soak up all the goodness one more time and time again. And could I just make sure that everyone has their view on speaker view, just so you can extract the best value out of this webinar on that view. And the last thing, just a little breakdown. We will have Amrit join us shortly, and we'll have about 30 to 35 minutes of questions and discussions about stress management and resilience, of course. And then we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes towards the end where we have a Q&A session, and you guys can pour in all your questions, any comments that you have throughout the webinar. Please type them in the comment section, but please don't unmute your mic. All right, so without further ado, let's get right into it. So welcome everyone to another YSPN webinar created especially in response to the current crisis faced globally. Our mission as an organization is to continuously focus on seva and how to better navigate our lives so we can be valuable participants of our society. Today we want to talk about stress management and resilience through changing times. And of course, there's no surprises right now with everything going on in the world. We're in a very unique position, and I hope we never have to face something like this again. But you know, from everyone has been affected by this, from parents to children to international students, employees, businesses, and stress is inevitable. And especially here in Melbourne, we have an abundance of uncertainty with rising cases and multiple lockdowns. So it's only fair we reach out and just reach out to our community, and we really talk about these mental health issues within our society. So to dive into these tough topics, we have an incredibly exciting guest with us today, who has an abundance of experience of mindfulness and is also a life coach. He's an international speaker, coach, podcast host, and founder of Inspired Evolution. Inspired Evolution came about from Amrit's personal journey with depression, which triggered his own personal awakening journey. He shares the tools of meditation and personal development, which helped him profoundly through his journey towards wholeness. And now he very kindly shares it with the rest of the world, and we're ecstatic to have him with us. So without further ado, please let's welcome Amrit Sandhu.
Hey Shrishti, thanks for the warm welcome. It's a real honor to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I just wish we had some fake applause in the background for you. Like it's happening with the footy at the moment. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for being here. It's a real treat.
No, thank you for being here. We really, really appreciate your time, and thank you so much. And all this wisdom you're about to drop on us, I'm very excited about it.
No pressure, no pressure.
That's all, no pressure. So yeah, so just obviously just, you know, in the current environment, obviously, and just with the rapid and constant change and there's almost just an anticipation of change as well now, which just causes us so much stress and anxiety. So in this session, really want to try and understand stress at a cognitive level and how we can better navigate negative emotions into a positive and even a productive manner.
Yeah.
So just to begin, maybe let's try and break down stress and anxiety into simpler terms. And Harjil, could we please get Amrit to be the spotlight so he can.
Yep, we've got him on then.
Not too bright a spotlight. It's important for a Sikh to stay humble, right? So, thank you.
Still be humble in the spotlight.
Perfect. Thank you. So, yeah, it's a great. It is a very interesting time that we're all navigating through, and one of the quotes I keep seeing is that we're all in this boat together. This ship of COVID. But if I'm honest with you, it feels like even though we maybe all be sailing the same sea, we're actually all in different boats. I look around me and some people that have kids, touch wood, they're doing it very differently to people that don't have kids. Some people still have work, some people don't. And I think it's just a very interesting time to be, to be alive, but also be navigating so much uncertainty. So I think the thing that is, that we are collectively surfing, collectively the sea that we're swimming is the sea of uncertainty. And you mentioned some keywords in your question, which was like anticipation, change, uncertainty. And when I hear all those words, when I just sit with them and go anticipation, uncertainty, change, they all trigger some form of anxiety within me, right? And so let's have a quick chat about stress before we dive into anxiety. So for me, stress personally is actually not a bad thing. Yeah, that's probably the first place that I'd love to sort of just get clear straight out of the gate is actually stress is actually a really supportive thing in your life. Personally, as a life coach, I feel like if I could be stress in your life, positive stress, my job would be done. Do you know what I mean? Like I fundamentally am a massive fan of stress. But it's when we have too much stress, left unchecked, chronic stress, that it becomes a problem. So Amrit, why do you want to be stressed? Great question. Stress for me is a feedback mechanism, right? It's a feedback mechanism of things being out of alignment in your life. Yeah. So as a life coach, my job is predominantly just, hey, like this is out of alignment. Can we sort of course correct and see like how this best fits us and best fits you? So in and around that, it's totally cool to be under stress. Like there's probably been moments in your life where there's been deadlines, there's been certain things, and you've achieved more than you ever thought you could achieve because you were driven by stress, right? So it's totally fine. But living in that state consistently, and we'll talk about this further today, for sure in the webinar, when you're spending more and more time there, left unchecked, when it becomes chronic, that's when a whole bunch of problems start to arise. And generally, stress left unchecked can lead to greater and greater levels of anxiety, right? Because when we're stressed, we're kind of, we'll talk about this in the webinar as well, we're not in our center. We're not like centered, we're not whole, and we're kind of off center. And from there, we start to worry. And that's where these words start to come in, right? Like worry, anticipation, uncertainty. And so this gives us a bit of an opportunity now to unpack what anxiety is. So as you mentioned, I've got a bit of a, my past, I've got a history of depression, and a big reason why I do a lot of this work is so that no one else has to go through what I went through. So it's a blessing again for me to be here today. But fundamentally what's going on with anxiety is you are spending more and more time thinking about the future. So I'm not sure if I'm pointing my hands to the left of everybody's screen, but this is going to be the future, right? So this will be the future and this will be the past over here. So you're spending more and more time focusing about the future, the uncertainty, the worry, the anticipation of change, what's coming up in here. Like we don't know what's coming next, right? And the more time you spend focused on the future, the more anxious you get, right? So simple things like, I wonder what tomorrow's weather is going to be like. And as I'm saying these sentences, just perhaps think about how you feel inside when I say this. I wonder what tomorrow's weather is going to be like. I wonder if I'm still going to have a job tomorrow. I wonder if I'm going to be able to sit my exams or not. I hope my parents are going to be all right through this, right? Now, for many of you, some of you can physically feel the constriction that's happening in your chest as I'm saying some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that constriction, right, is your anxiety. But notice all the questions are about tomorrow, the day after, the next 6 months, what's happening in the future, right? Now, the real challenge with that, and this is tough to say because it's so much easier to say than actually adopt and acknowledge.
Yeah.
The challenge with worry and anxiety is that you're expending today's energy, the energy that you have here and now, right, into worrying about tomorrow. So you're just leaching energy into the future, but you're not in the future. You're actually here right now. Yeah. And so as
Your mic just dropped out there, Amrit.
yeah, are we still here?
Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, we can. Yeah, sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're consistently bleeding energy into the future, but you're actually here. Yeah. And so what's happening is that worry about the future is not serving you. So it's almost frivolous and pointless. And I know what it sounds like when I say that. It's like, duh, right? And it's much harder to adopt, but it's important to get that frame right, to really understand that from the outset. Yeah?
Yeah. But how do you it's your future. How do you not worry about your future?
Well, this is a great question, yeah? And if I'm honest with you, there's nothing wrong with worrying about your future. Remember, stress is a good thing. Like a little bit of it, absolutely, right? So it's an evolutionary tool for us to be able to look forward into the future and plan. If it wasn't planning, we wouldn't have conducted this webinar today, right? Like looking into the future. If it wasn't for planning, we wouldn't have the buildings, the society, the structures, the social networks that we do today if it wasn't for planning, right? And also equally, because we'll talk about depression soon as well, if we weren't able to look back and learn from our mistakes, right? We wouldn't have been able to learn from like history, how to be better humans, to adopt that into our day-to-day living. So looking forward, projecting ourselves into the future and planning, and looking back and rectifying from our mistakes are fundamental to our evolution, right? That's how we got where we are today. So the mind has this natural potency to be able to do this. The challenge remains, though, that when we spend more and more time in the future, we're anxious. When we spend more and more time in the past, we're depressed, right? We're not actually anchored to the antidote, which is actually the present moment, which, 1 in 2 people alive right now are anxious or depressed. And there's a whole myriad of reasons, and we can unpack that later in the seminar as to why that is the case. But there's a rub in there.
No, there's some really, really good points there, Amrit. And we always hear that the mind and the body are interconnected, right? So whenever we are stressed and or anxious, what happens to our bodies and thoughts as a reflex?
Yeah,
so everything's interconnected.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, of course.
So the challenge with chronic stress, right, is that when it's left unchecked, basically what it does is it wreaks havoc on your hormones, right? So you end up in this jacked state. The impact is not just on your mental and your physical, but also your emotional.
Yeah.
Right? So kind of when I'm doing my life coaching, I'm looking at people generally in 4 dimensions, sometimes 5. So it's like mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, but then also financial, because that's a big undercurrent that sort of has an impact on people.
Huge, yeah.
And so it, like, when you're consistently in chronic stress, when you're consistently anxious, right? Basically what's happening is we're in this state of fight and flight. This is that point where you're like in this jack state. Now, what's happening in your brain is you're tapping into the amygdala. The amygdala is actually the reptilian part of your brain. It was the part that was first evolved. So it's like the most primitive part of your brain. It's a really comfortable place for the human being to be, right? Because it's like, we're here and then we kind of respond from this place. As a decision making, like you don't even get the chance to make a decision. It's just boom, you react, and just remember that word, react, right? Like, because we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, the choices.
Yeah.
And so you react from the amygdala. Now, it's great if you're facing a lion. Like if I'm standing in front of a lion and I need to go, like, what do I do in this? I don't have the chance to go, what do I do in this moment?
You will run.
Let me get out pros and cons list. And it's like, that's not going to happen, right? That's just
you'll run.
Right? And it's just like, boom, like run, right? And that happens before I even think about it. So it's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing. But one thing to duly note, right, is that the time spent in front of a lion is minimal and it's few and far between, right? So I'll be in front of a lion for maybe once every 7 years or something. I wouldn't probably put myself in that environment. But with today and the evolution of, since the industrial kind of revolution, the world that we live in now is so jacked. Like it's surprising that you're going into meetings, smashing a coffee, and then like someone's saying something mean to you and then you've kind of left, you've been fired from your job. All these things are triggers, right? And we can't really dissociate between losing job stress and lion stress. And the challenge with losing job stress, that now you're jacked and you're like, I don't know what's coming next. But like, you don't just run away from the lion and you don't just fight it. You're kind of stuck with it. Yeah. So you're in this jack state. You're spending more and more time in your amygdala. And one of the key things that's happening from there is you're actually tapping out of like the cortisol is just rising and rising and rising as you do more and more of that. And as your cortisol rises, you tap out of what is your parasympathetic nervous system and into your sympathetic nervous system. For some people, this will make a lot of sense. For some people, that won't make much sense at all. But basically, your parasympathetic nervous system is your nervous system in a relaxed state, right? It's like that Zen, like everything's good. I can chill, I can relax, yeah. And then your sympathetic nervous system is it's reactionary, and it's like it's in this state. Now, sympathetic nervous system, great to be in, right? Like if you need that adrenaline kick and you need to go do something about something, right? But if you're in that space consistently, you're prioritizing fight or flight against muscle and tissue repair, against basic cognition that is, your prefrontal cortex is responsible for. So all these things that you need for your day to day are compromised when you're in that state, right? And that impacts your decision making, which I know is something that you're curious about for your listeners, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it was really interesting actually what you said about like when you're in front of that lion, like that's maybe for like a second, but I've read heaps about how we create memories as well, and I guess that's like one part of it too. So like that lion would have been there for a second, but the thought of that lion and the memory of that lion stays with me forever, and I dwell on it, and then I guess that's where you're talking about the past, and then that's that whole anxiety thing.
So let's get that clear. So great, and almost there. So when you're dwelling on the image of the lion, you're going back into the past. The past. So I'd love to sort of just sub in some text here. So if you use the word past, just sub it in for the word depression. Yeah. And if you use the word future, just sub in the word anxiety. Future, anxiety. Past, depression. Right. And just to clear that up, and maybe it wasn't clear but the first time I explained it, let's talk about the past just really quickly. I know we're kind of on a tangent. Just come with me.
Fine.
So
Let's
on
go.
the tangent of the past, it's like, I wish, and just again, feeling in your body if you can. I wish I submitted my assignment on time. I wish I saved enough money for that house when I had the opportunity. I wish I got to say those things to my parents before they passed away. I wish. Now, can you see how all those things are in the past, and just notice how you feel? Like you actually feel kind of ground in. Maybe it's just me over here, but you kind of feel
100%.
depressed, right? Like that depression, right? That is, and they're all thoughts of the past. And remember the previous, what am I going to do tomorrow? What's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? Oh, I wish I could have, or I wish I should have, or like, so like there's all these kind of forwards and backwards. When you're in forwards and backwards, anxiety. How's this going to work out? How's this going to work out? In the back, it's like, and like depression. So then that kind of grounds you down, right? And so there's this depression and anxiety. Now they're both intrinsically linked, yeah? And the way psychologists, counselors kind of treat it is exactly the same way, right? Because if you have an issue staying in the future a lot, you generally never really anchor into the present. You slip into the past as well, and then you slip into the future as well. I generally find in the people that I coach, they have a propensity for one or the other. So I know for myself, I have a propensity for depression, right? Yeah. So what happens is if I'm tired or hungry or sleepy or compromised, or if I'm really like too many coffees in the day, at the end of the day, I'm a bit agitated, I start to slip into like this victim mode thing, which is like, I'm a little bit kind of, oh, why did this happen to me? What, and I catch myself when I see these thoughts come up, and we'll talk about this soon in terms of some of the strategies we can implement. Yeah. I start seeing these strategies and I'm like, oh, like these thoughts come up and it's like, yeah, like I'm in a compromised state. I'm having a lot of depressional thoughts. Now, I don't identify with my thoughts because of mindfulness and meditation. We'll talk about that as well. But the antidote, just to be completely clear, is coming back to the present moment. In the present moment, and this is why mindfulness healed my depression, because in the present moment, I'm in a really great position. Like I'm here, I've got a beautiful home around me, I've got a webcam, I'm having a conversation with many people all around the world with a beautiful host and beautiful community. Like, you know, the Sikh community means so much to me, and just being able to contribute and give back. And even if it wasn't this, right? Even if it wasn't right live right now, if I was just sitting on my couch, I've got electricity, I've got water, I've got
Plenty to be
my
grateful
family.
for.
So many things to be grateful for.
Plenty.
In the present moment, you're always fine. Right?
Yeah.
You're always fine in the present moment.
That's
You just
beautiful,
need to
actually. I like
dial in.
that. In your present moment, you're always fine. I like
Absolutely.
that. Love that.
Absolutely. And it's only when you start not getting fine and when slip into the
Yeah,
future.
very true. Yeah,
I'm not
very
fine
true.
because, oh, I'm thinking about the photo of the lion again, or what if it comes back, right?
Very
So
true. And
this is,
actually, like, yeah. And I remember just because through the pandemic as well, I've actually lost my job as well. And I've just, this is the first time I've ever gone through something like this. And it's really funny because some mornings I just wake up and I just have so much regret. And I'm just like, oh my God, like 5 years ago, if I hadn't, like left that job or maybe 5 years ago, I did something like this, maybe this wouldn't be my situation today. And I completely understand where you're coming from because there's no productive reason for me to be doing that at all.
Yeah. Can I ask
but
you
I
a quick,
do it just because, yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you a quick question about that? Like,
Yeah.
Sorry to kind of put you in the
No,
spotlight.
of course. No, go for it.
Let's talk about the ethos of seva. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Siddhartha Dharma, like seva in a really big way.
100%.
And one of the things that I've had to learn for myself, and this is not from a narcissistic place, but in order to be of service, like in order to go to and this is just like one example, to go to the Gurdwara and be able to wash those big, massive pots, you kind of have to have some reach. You kind of have to have some level of muscle capacity to be able to big up those big pots so that everyone can cook and clean, right? So from that perspective, I also need to look after myself so I can be of service to others.
100%.
Yeah. So learning to serve ourselves so that we can serve others is like a key place to be. So the question then arises, like, do some of these thoughts that you're having, do they serve you? And this is a great question for everybody tuning in, right? Like, do these thoughts actually serve me? Like, what could I have done 5 years ago? Great question. If you can learn from it and maybe journal on it and write it down and close the book and be like, okay, next time an opportunity arises to do X, Y, Z, maybe I'll take a leap of faith. But right now, beating myself like a punching bag again and again and again with the thought from the past is like, it really doesn't serve me. Right now, if I stop to tune in, it's like, like restrictions are in place. I've got enough money to make it through the storm. I've actually been given like a 6-week holiday. Maybe now's a great time to start my own business. Maybe now's a great time to pick up a hobby. Maybe now's a great time to call my parents. I rarely contacted them when I was all busy working. I don't know what the answer is, but there is an opportunity to reframe some of that.
It's different for everyone, and I think just as humans, we are we are creatures of community. So when it comes to, like we're so big on community, and I think this lockdown period is really reminding us of that. I think we really forgot that. Yeah. Look, I think you've just answered my next question just in the discussion, which was how does this affect your outlook on life, and how do you base your decisions around these thoughts? Yeah.
So just to kind of drop into that, I guess being in the parasympathetic versus being in the sympathetic, right? So being kind of in that lion jack state of like, whoa, like, and just to be clear, like I'm just going to pepper some things in here for everyone to be mindful of. Like the way I look at caffeine, and this doesn't have to be your reality, but the way I look at caffeine and coffee is liquid anxiety. Yeah. Like
liquid anxiety.
Right. So just be mindful, because caffeine like gets you like jacked. It dropped like when the way it reacts to your hormones is like everything's on. And that everything on is not too dissimilar to how you are when you see a lion, but then you've got that afterburn for 45 minutes, right? So you're in a really jacked state. So if you are someone that's anxiety prone, maybe caffeine is not the best thing for you, right? So little things like that to consider, because what's happening is when you're in that jack state, you're not clear, right? Because you're not thinking with your prefrontal cortex, right? This is the executive decision-making function house of our brain, right? And fun little fact, this is as big as it will ever get now, because human beings, this was the latest part of the brain to develop. And we've actually gotten to a point where we can't grow it anymore. And some people argue that's kind of where the next evolution is actually these digital devices, because we've tapped out the capacity of the size of our head. Because if it got any bigger, we'd actually kill our mothers at birth. And so human beings have actually maximized the potential of our brains, of our the human head. So this was the latest part to actually develop in our head. And this is where you do most of your clear thinking from, when you're, goal setting and all the clear sort of day-to-day tasks. When you're not jacked, you come into your prefrontal cortex, right? And the same thing when you're dropping into like meditative states, like the amygdala. So here's another fun fact. When they started looking at neuroscience, like neuroplasticity, a big case was made for neuroplasticity and neuroscience initially was with the invention of MRI scans. So with MRI scans, they actually got meditators, people that had been meditating for years and years and years and years, to go and sit in an MRI scan. Prior to this point, we didn't believe that we could down-regulate the amygdala. Now that all sounds a bit technical, but basically the fight and flight response part of your brain we thought was so core to who you are that you had no control over it. You were just subject to it, right? Whatever happened, you kind of just responded to it. But now they sent in this MRI scan, put a meditator in there, and they actively watched his brain, and he was worried about the confined space, but then he actively down-regulated his amygdala. So the flight and flight response started to soften. And they could see activity going away from that part of the brain and opening up in other parts. And it was like, whoa, he came out, they said, what were you doing? And he was like, I was just breathing and meditating. And from there, this was like, whoa, we can actually change our brain with breath, with mindfulness, with meditation. So then this whole conversation around neuroplasticity, all this started opening up, and now we've got sciences and fields behind it. So that kind of answers your question. To come back off the tangent into your question, when you're in that jack state, you're compromising your day-to-day decision-making, right? And let me just ask you directly, like, how many times have you made a decision under stress that has not been the best one for you? Yeah. So even recently, one of the things I've started doing, and almost making it a mantra, is like, I will sleep on things, because throughout the day you accumulate stress. Yeah. And when I go to like, this is the best response, I've got to respond to this person right now because otherwise things will go to shit tomorrow. It's like, most of the time it's like, actually, no, I don't think they're going to go that badly tomorrow. If I can just learn to just temper and sit with it and then respond tomorrow fresh. And that's why the saying, sleep on it and see how it goes, is there, because you come back and you're kind of not in that jacked state anymore. The stresses of the days have kind of settled. Sleep is great. Another little thing. Don't drink coffee if you can. Another little thing to pepper in there is also sleep is fundamental to your healing, to your resting, right? So like, make sure you're getting enough sleep. That's actually where your body really recovers everything, your hormones, everything, your musculature, your mind, the gray matter, all of that. So not being jacked and coming back and giving your prefrontal cortex the ability to actually do what it's designed to do, so you can actually make good decisions.
Yeah. Oh, that's really awesome. Thank you. And my next question might be a bit long and a heavy one, but for a lot of people who have been forced to sit idle, through unemployment or being furloughed or changes in their study schedules, or for like parents, like, how do you practice good resilience through it all?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I can only reflect from my perspective, seeing as I'm the one here speaking today. And for me, it's going to be one of the challenges I guess I have is when you, like, I've been on this journey a little bit. And so I'm just starting with a disclaimer, I guess, is where I'm going with this.
No, go for it.
When you're a meditator, it feels like meditation heals everything, right? So I remember when I first started meditating, it's like, oh, you've got a sore toe. It's okay, meditate. It's like, yard, what are you doing? But, so just peppering that. But obviously we're having a conversation around resilience, but you've got someone here that's like, focused on mindfulness to have a conversation around that. So from the mindfulness perspective, and there are plenty of people that advocate mindfulness for resilience, but there are many other ways that you can support your resilience as well.
For someone who hasn't like ever meditated, or probably meditated a couple of times in their life,
which is a great place to start. So we'll actually go through a few of those today. Let me just describe to you what's going on theory-wise for a person with mindfulness and resilience, and then we'll drop into maybe 2 or a few exercises depending on how keen everybody is. So generally what's happening is with mindfulness, you're taking the time to basically come back into the present moment. Yeah. Mindfulness is helping you build a relationship with the present moment. Meditation is much broader than mindfulness. You can meditate on the past, you can meditate on the future, right? So meditation is a big thing, big topic.
Yeah.
But mindfulness is a very small sliver of meditation. It's a type of meditation that basically just anchors you back into the present moment. It's called mindfulness because you're fully trying to bring yourself into this moment. So there are many exercises, and I'll introduce you to a couple of them in just a moment. But how does bringing myself into the present moment help me with my resilience? Great question. Great question. So from there, basically, once you've got awareness of the present moment, yeah, you're now aware of your attention, because it's actually your attention that you're dialing into the present moment. Now, again, bit of a tangent. Attention is actually one of the things that our generation is most, I want to use the word corrupted, but it's probably not the best word to use.
Definitely.
Our attention is, yeah.
Very tiny, very tiny.
Well, the thing is, it's consistently hijacked. Yeah. And it, like, the news outlets intentionally hijack your attention, fear-based programming, right? Social media is designed to, the like button is designed to hijack your attention, right? So we're designed to scroll. Like they've actually studied humans, and they want to keep you on the hamster wheel and your attention somewhere. So we never really take the time and energy to focus our attention and learn how to, like, build a clear relationship with our attention, unless we're mindfulness practitioners.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard. This is one of the biggest challenges I have with something like this in the space, is that generally people want, like, okay, I'm having a lot of challenges. I want it complicated. Like, you know, this is how we put it all together. And this is like a plan, go execute it. And it's really simple. And it's simple for a reason. Like, things that actually help us as human beings, we shouldn't need science and stuff behind them, right? Like, we're primitive beings. Like, we've been on this journey for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? So just coming into the present moment and being mindful is an amazing tool. But the challenge is, today I'm sharing it with you for free. So some of you are going to take it and some of you are going to leave it, right? Because you got it for free, right? But if you signed up for like a TM meditation class, they charge you $5,000 for a mantra. And then people are like, oh my God, my mantra. And they stick to it because they paid $5,000 for it, right? And so it's important just to identify that because it's free doesn't mean it's not powerful. Yeah, it's exceptionally powerful. So once you've kind of got this awareness of your attention and where it's directed, yeah, generally what challenges your resilience is all the stress and all the anxiety or all the depressional thoughts. In the present moment, like we shared before, things are pretty good. You've got a lot of things to be grateful for. You've still got your family. You've still got your house. You've still got your pets. You've still got all the things in your house. You've still got friends and family and community. You've still got technology. You're able to connect to these sort of conversations, right?
Something to be grateful for.
There's so many things to be grateful for in the present moment, right? And like, just feeling into that gratitude in the present moment, it's like, whoa, like, I'm actually quite whole and centered, like, you know, and then from there, you're in a really comfortable, solid, centered place. So if you can keep coming back to here, I call it resourced. You're heavily resourced in the present moment. The minute you're in the future, you're leaching resources. The minute you're in the past, you're depleting resources. So coming back to the present moment where you're most resourced, that place, great place to be so that you have resilience, right? Because from here, you can bounce back. So the conversation around resilience is, when you think about resilience, it's about adaptability. It's about bouncing back. So yes, tomorrow is going to be really challenging, but bounce back. Exercise resilience, bounce back into the present moment and go, yeah, tomorrow's going to be challenging, but now's good.
So it's a skill. So it's a skill that needs to be practiced.
Again and again and again and again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I should have done this 5 years ago. Bounce back again and again. And over time, just to give people like an idea of what like good looks like in this space, nothing's ever good or bad. It's just, you know, whatever your relationship with is. But good is, you will start to notice that the time between you bouncing back gets shorter and shorter and shorter, right? You will still always have thoughts about the future, but you don't spend half a day in them. You spend 5 minutes thinking about the future and you're like, oh, I'm in the future. Huh, cool, bounce back, right? Now, if you think about that, like, I've met people where it's like something happened to them on the tram at 6:30 in the morning and they walk into work at 7:30 and they're like, oh, this day's like gone, like
Correct,
this day, rah, rah, and they're complaining about something that happened an hour ago. And I'm like, you've written off the next 12 hours based on something that happened an hour ago.
Yeah,
Bounce back, just
No.
come back and just,
yeah.
it's all good. Like right now, you're in your suit, you picked up a coffee, you just picked up a sandwich, you're good to go. Like there's, but we kind of do this to ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
So that is the definition of good in this space, is like the more you practice, the more you realize, the more aware you become, the more you realize that, hey, I'm spending more time in the future, I'm spending more time in the past, and you'll naturally catch yourself. You don't have to do anything. You'll naturally catch yourself spending time there because now you're dialing into your attention and where it's going. It's like, oh, I got to bring it back, and you'll naturally bring it back. And the interesting thing is you're doing that in the day-to-day with your thoughts, and that's actively what the practice is trying to do as well. So let's talk about the practice.
Yeah. So,
do you want to dive into?
What's like 100%. So what's like an easy or like a basic mindfulness exercise that our audience can practice?
Cool. So I'll share the one that was first ever introduced to me. And full transparency, this was handed to me when, just a little bit of context, I was diagnosed, like when the psychologist basically goes, Beta, you've got depression. I was like, okay.
Oh no.
She basically gave me prescription pills. And I looked at the pills and I was like, oh, here we go.
Were they antidepressants?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, okay.
And then I went to the doctor who had prescribed me, and then she gave me this mindfulness exercise, this breathing exercise. And when I looked at the breathing exercise, I looked at her and I looked at the breathing exercise, and pardon me for being crude, but this was my reality back all this time ago. I was looking at this and I was looking at the breathing exercise, I was looking at her and I was like, breathing? Like, are you serious? Like, you've just diagnosed me with having had depression for, years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
And you've just told me to breathe. Like, it's something I do every moment of every day. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. Can you please just,
100%.
Okay, I'll go fulfill the prescription. Now I fulfilled the prescription, really interesting, like fully jacked and like in a really great place, but you're on drugs, you're on antidepressant drugs, and then you crash. And I was like, whoa, like this is no way to live, like up and down and up
because
down and up and down.
Wouldn't
So
your brain almost become reliant on them?
It's an interesting space to be. Like, I definitely can't say that antidepressants are not for everybody. Like, some people are in really hard places. If you need to go take them, sure. But if you like, I personally just could not do that to myself. The inspired evolution, the logo is the mind, so like, it's always been like, I've always been very mindful of the mind. And so like, I rarely went and threw them in the bin. But this breathing exercise, I remember I was walking down the corridor of university at the time, and university was a place that produced a lot of anxiety for me, a lot of anxiety. Like, I can't even begin to tell you, it was debilitating. And we talk about community, and I'll talk about some of the key things like that actually are beyond mindfulness that can help us with the day-to-day. One of the things I used to do was call my friends a lot. We didn't used to have social media back then. I used to pick up my phone and speak to my friends. And I would talk. I was a kid that could talk to his friends for 30 minutes at a time. I don't know if you guys used to do that, but I used to just do that. And I didn't realize that was a coping mechanism. So I was looking for connection. I was getting anxious, and I was like, let me just avoid this moment and call my friends.
Yeah, distraction, yeah.
Totally. And by some grace of God, the breathing exercise she's written down, and I had a clear cover at the time, and the breathing exercise was on the back of my phone. So I'm walking down the corridor, and I look at the phone, and I'm about to call someone. I'm like, okay, I'll try this. And I invite you to try it now. So closing down your eyes. You don't have to close down your eyes, but it's easier to sort of just connect without the distractions of what you're looking at visually. So closing down your eyes. As you're doing this, I invite you to number your breaths 1 to 5, and then back down to 1, and then 1 to 5. So if that doesn't make sense, I'll guide you through it now. So breathing in, 1. And breathing out, 2. Breathing in, 3. Breathing out, 4. Breathing in, 5. Breathing out, 4. Breathing in, 3. Breathing out, 2. Breathing in, 1, breathing out. 2, breathing in. 3, breathing out. 4, breathing in. 5. And in this moment, I invite you to just open your eyes, come back gently, slowly.
Wow. That really, really made me feel, I completely forgot where I was. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and so there's always this amazing opportunity just on the back of any kind of meditation, just to feel your state,
Yeah.
just to benchmark your energy, see how you're feeling.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Amrit. It was
Of
really,
course,
really
it's
awesome.
an absolute pleasure. And so just to
Yeah.
let you guys know the mechanics behind what's going, many of you won't need the mechanics. I'm an engineer by background, so I kind of need it. So just to share with you, what you're doing with the counting is giving your mind something to focus on. The breath, it's amazing that you're counting your breath because your breath is actually connected to your nervous system, right? So you're actually down regulating and coming back into your sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah, so you're relaxing and your mind is now focused. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're actually giving it something to focus on and you're dialing in your attention. And the breath is the most real-time thing you have. It's the only thing that's really happening in the very present moment, right? Closest to. Like other than that, everything else is like you're seeing it and it's happening a couple of seconds later. Even the webinar you're watching right now, there's a latency. This is traveling all over the world. There's a latency to it. Your breath is with you right here, right now, right? And it helps you dial in your attention. So once you're aware, because I've got another exercise to share with you guys as well. So once you're aware and you're tuning into, okay, I'm good, I'm here, I'm centered, and you've cultivated this sense of awareness and mindfulness, you're back in the present moment. Gratitude is a great tool. Yeah, from here, like we've been
100%.
saying through this seminar, it's like there are so many things to be grateful for, right? And the science has shown you sleep better, you eat better, like there's
Everything,
mate, like gratitude works, yeah, and we're designed for it, we're hardwired for it. So the way I like to do this, and maybe this is a great piece of homework for everybody, writing down a gratitude list, right? 3 things you're grateful for in life. And this doesn't have to be the same every time. I always change it. So generally what happens is my moments in life happen so fast that I forget to express gratitude about some things, right? So like today in my gratitude practice will be the opportunity to come along and share some of this stuff that means so much to me with everybody else. So that will be part of today's gratitude practice for me, right? So 3 things in your life that you're grateful for. And oftentimes I encourage you to make it something small, right? Like if someone handed you a pen just when you needed it, or someone held open the door, because if you can start to find gratitude in the small things, you'll find gratitude in everything, right? And so gratitude is, your brain actually can't tell the difference between the small things and the big things. The same neurons kind of ping for gratitude. It's such a superhighway. So if you can start doing that, 3 things in your life that you're grateful for, 3 things about your work that you're grateful for, right? And if you're out of work right now, still cultivate that gratitude for the fact of like what work brings into you, right? Like when I had work, I was grateful for, right? And it's like
when
this,
I had work,
right? Like, or the work that I'm looking for, or perhaps the fact that you don't have work, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm looking, like it's giving me the opportunity to breathe into actually following my passion, living the life that I really want to live. Like the job was just a job that was like a dead end job that didn't really want to take me where I wanted to go, right? So that sort of conversation is now available to you, right? And lots of people are having this conversation. Just to give you clarity, like coaching, like has gone, like it's been insane at the moment. So many people are having this conversation. Like I needed a reset. I really needed a reset.
I've heard that so much. I've heard that from so many people that like low key, like this has just been a blessing.
Right. And so that's the gratitude piece. So 3 things about your life, 3 things about your work. And then this, for some people, is really hard, but please, I invite you in to do this. 3 things about yourself, right? So just to make myself a bit vulnerable in full transparency, one of the things I'm grateful for are my values. Like my value is like one of my values is connection. I love to connect with people. Like I like it. Just I zing. I'm an extrovert. And bang! Like having this conversation. All these people here. Like this makes me tick. Right. So I'm grateful that connection means so much to me and lights me up.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I have a sense of enthusiasm about life. Touch. Right. So I'm grateful for my sense of taste, right? Obviously I'm Indian, so we've all got great taste. But like, I literally think flavors, like no one else nails flavors like we nail flavors. So
100%.
anything like this, right? And it can even be some things that you might not consider. Like I'm grateful for the fact that I'm lazy, right?
Yeah.
Why are you grateful for the fact? Because I always find the most efficient way to get things done, right? So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm grateful that I'm beautiful. I'm grateful that I'm lazy. So finding things about yourself that you can be grateful for. So those are kind of the three things. For bonus, I always like to do this just because connection is my highest value. 3 people that life would not be the same without. Mom, dad, dog, doesn't have to be a person. So life, work, yourself, and your friends.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the gratitude
Would you recommend
practice.
doing this every day?
You don't have to write it every day. So generally what I do
Just
is
in your head,
I actually, once I do like a mindfulness kind of space, like, or sometimes not even, I'll realize that I've been gone for like, a few hours without expressing gratitude towards anything. I'll just take a moment to just be like, oh, what's really good? And it's like, oh, wow, I'm really grateful that, at least in isolation, I've got my partner. I've got my dog. In isolation, hey, like I'm glad I started picking up the guitar a couple of years ago because now I can actually play a couple of tunes, and in isolation it's a pretty graceful way to go.
And you know what I hear in that? I also hear a habit, because now you just said when it's been a couple of hours when you haven't expressed gratitude, like your body sort of feels like it's missing something. So it's actually become a habit for you now.
And so I did have another exercise, but I'm just going to tie it off at those two. Because you've segued into the perfect little piece there, which is I encourage in my coaching to build like a practice once a day if you can, right? So like, and generally I do morning routines, and some people evening routines work, but routines can look like anything. One of the people I coached recently, she loved meditating as soon as she came home from work. I don't know why, but that was like a reset to her day. That was her thing. She didn't want to do it in the mornings, coffee in, bang out. But when she came home from work, it was like, that's when I wanted to just perfect change of energy.
That's beautiful.
So I do it in the mornings, and I encourage you to try and implement these things once every day, right? So like if you can take a time out in the morning just to like legitimately, like it didn't take that long for you to experience mindfulness, right? Just to wake up mindful. And to be honest, like I'll be honest with you guys, because this is the Sikh community, gratitude happens first thing in my morning. Like gratitude, like literally legs swing out of the bed, hit the earth, and I'm just thanking the guru for waking me up for another day, right? Because you're like, some people pass away in their sleep, right? But maybe that's not your frequency. Maybe you need to take some time to do your gratitude practice. Shower, get ready, practice some mindfulness, and do your gratitude. Now you can journal your gratitude list. You can experience your gratitude list just by checking it off in your head with the way that I do it. Literally takes like less than 5 minutes to do that. I encourage you not to just checklist things as well with the gratitude. See if you can really feel it, like feel the emotions behind the things that you're grateful for. Like that emotion, that energy really changes your constitution.
That's what really actually changes the energy as well, I think.
Totally.
For yourself and people around you.
Yep.
No, well, thank you so much for that. Go for it.
So just the once a day, but also what I would like to call either a sacred pause or a power pause throughout your day. So this is what you're alluding to. Like I've gone a few hours without gratitude. I've gone a few hours without mindfulness. There's the opportunity to install a power pause in your day. And it doesn't have to be at consistent intervals. Just remembering that, I can take a moment to pause and breathe. It's a power pause or a sacred pause, whatever you want to call it. But a moment to pause in your day. Some people that I coach like to actually put it in their calendar, like on the hour, every hour, just to pause, but you don't have to do it that way. But like if you find yourself jacked, you can just, like it's lunchtime and you're about to go eat lunch, and it's like, well, just before I eat lunch, let me just come back. All the meetings and all the day are in my head. And if I eat, I won't assimilate the nutrition as well. Let me just take a moment to pause, breathe, cool, I'm back. Let's go. And you can do that just before you get and when you get home. So you can practice this multiple times throughout the day. But I encourage one time at least a seating practice, and then the power pause as many times as you can throughout the day as you need. So that's kind of the prescription. I love to talk, so I've talked over my little share.
No, you're fine.
There's hours honestly
flown by. Thank you so much for all this, Amrit. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comment section in the chat box there. I've got one person who has actually wrote a little comment saying that my friend's son is on medication and hurting himself, 22 years old. Please provide your details, and I think we'll definitely get you guys in touch with them.
For sure.
Just Preet, thank you. Grateful practice is wonderful. It's such a lovely way to invite children to express themselves too. That's beautiful, Amrit. So wonderful. Thank you for your openness and sharing.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's an absolute honor to be, here with
And
you,
any further questions outside of today, can you please email amrit@inspiredevolution.com, and we'll definitely put Amrit's details in our YSPN social platforms as well.
Sure.
We've just got one question here. Out of everything you have done in life, has meditation been the greatest practice to get you out of anxiety? What about exercise and diet?
Yeah, great question. GK, I'm not sure what that's short for. Could be so many things. But yeah, so I don't even know if it's brother or sister because all our names are.
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, so tuning into your question. Yay, brother. Thanks for dropping in with me. So the key thing in there, like everything helps. My journey actually started with, I started as a gym junkie, and that was one of the first things that installed into my life that was really healthy. But also noticing that the gym junkiness, I became very vain to a point where I was like, do I look good? Do I not look good? And that was like a really anxious state to be in. So everything has its place to a certain, like there's a balance with everything, right? And just reminding people that fitness is not health. Fitness is an idea of you fitting into a mold of what the fitness industry is trying to fit you into. Health is completely beyond that. Health is multidimensional. Yeah. So yes, the gym really helps, and exercise is key because it helps you tap back into your body, and sweating is just so good for you. Like there are so many benefits of the gym. Definitely nutrition key, right? Because you are what you eat. And in fact, you're not just you are what you eat, you are what you ate. Right. So having the conversation around vegan and organic and some of the diet that you consume is really important.
Yeah.
Because we generally have three like intelligence centers. We have our mind, we also have our heart intelligence, but we also have our gut. And your gut is where you assimilate all the outside world into. So when you start looking at Chinese herbal medicine, it's like where the outside world assimilates into your body. And if your gut is immunocompromised, it also means your relationship and your outlook with the world is kind of compromised, right? So eating good foods, looking after your gut is really important. Actually, there's a lot of science now that shows that gut health and mental health are very well interlinked. In fact, even just like beyond the conversation of gut, that slump that you get in the afternoon when you eat something and you kind of go, oh, I just want to sleep.
I'm done for the day.
And it's like that.
I need a nap.
Yeah, right. So actually there's a chemical that in your body called GABA, right? And it's this fundamental thing that your brain actually uses to process information. It's the food for your brain to process information. It's called GABA. When you go into digestion, your body prioritizes digestion over neural function. And that's the only other system in your body that requires GABA. So now GABA is going to your gut. Same chemical in a different place. And that's why your brain's like, hey, mate, I'm out of here. I've got no food here. And it's like your digestion's doing its thing, right? So digestion, food, critically important. Exercise, critically important. Meditation and mindfulness is great because it's available to you in the present moment, right? And for my journey, I'm just sharing from the context of my life, it's been the absolute game changer because when I became mindful and aware, that helped me become aware of, oh my God, something goes on with my digestion. Like that was a curiosity. Then I went and researched it. Now I can share with you what's going on, right? Also the gym, like I was abusing my body. Like I went to the gym and I was just doing strength training, never did any flexibility work, never did any of the yoga sort of stuff, was just a complete bro about it, right? So that awareness, the meditation, the mindfulness brought me to actually, I need to stretch. Like, there's like, and I became more healthy, less fit. So hopefully that answers your question, GK.
Thank you for your response,
Of course, brother. Here to help in any way.
I think there are a couple more questions. Are you happy to answer them now, or would you like them to be emailed? Sure. Yeah? Okay, sure. So we've got another one here from Clayton. Do you ever feel complacent with gratitude and feel like a habit? If so, how do you get back to actually being and feeling grateful again?
That's a great question, Clayton. Thank you so much, man. So the key thing in there for me, I like to spice it up because I keep changing things that are in the thing, like in my gratitude list, so that I'm always looking for new things to be grateful for. And also finding, now this is going to sound a little bit, I'm just going to have to share my piece, finding new ways to give thanks. Yeah, like finding new ways to give thanks. So sometimes I've got a couple of really close friends, and what we'll do is actually we'll build like on a chadar, like Clayton, maybe you know what chadar, like a sheet, right? And we'll build like a beautiful mandala on the sheet, like with just things that we collected from the forest, like leaves, stones, sticks, and we'll just give thanks. We'll make this beautiful thing, and we're just giving thanks to the earth for its blessings, for us being alive and nutrition, and we'll just have intentions. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for, my mum and dad. And so we've literally just built something beautiful, and then we'll go dig a hole, and then we'll literally empty the contents into the hole. Like the impermanence of it is a beautiful thing. So many different cultures experience gratitude in many different ways. So finding other ways to do it.
That's
there's
beautiful.
Many different ways that you can connect to gratitude on a deeper level. And even just like now with isolation, you're only allowed out for an hour of the day. So if you're going to the park, picking things from the forest or from the park, sorry, a bit romantic with the forest, from the park, and then bring them home and building out a mandala, and the next day going back to the park and like actually giving thanks. It's a bit hippie, it's a bit pagan, but hey, if it helps you connect to your gratitude.
And it's different types of gratitude as well, because that probably taps into different energies as well.
And the reality is, for me, when it starts to get stale, the key thing that I notice is I'm doing the checkbox thing, right? So when I'm just doing my practice, like the one I shared with you guys, 3 things about life. Yep, cool. Did an awesome seminar. Cool. Had a great walk today. Yep, fed the dog and the dog loved me. Got so many licks. And the next thing, it's like, but you see, I'm like checkboxing it. It's not like, oh my God, did an amazing seminar and really got to connect with a whole bunch of new people. Can't believe I got the opportunity to serve a community that has given me so much. Wow. And just sit in it.
And feel it, And
breathe into it and just feel it and just what that means for you. And it's like, oh, awesome to live a life of service and to be able to serve in such a gracious way. Wow. Thank you. Next. Okay, my dog, I woke up and she just would not stop licking me. Yeah, she's a bit obsessed with me. That's great. Oh man, thank you.
That's great. Right? Dogs are beautiful.
Right? So can you see how like you're taking the time and energy to actually connect to the energy of it? And that energy, like gratitude, I think that when you're brimming with that joy, it's actually hard for that to get stale. But generally our practice is we're only doing it mind deep, not heart deep. So if you can bring it like all the way back to the heart and actually feel the emotion behind it, it's difficult for it to get stale. And then mixing up the contents of actually what's going in that practice. Hopefully that answers your question, Clayton. How'd you go with that? Does that help?
I have one last question, and the rest we'll just get them emailed to you, yeah?
Gotcha.
So the last one is question from Amrit to Amrit.
Hey, yo.
What do you recommend to have a routine that's not boring / stressful, especially when we are all working from home? I guess we can all do the things we can, but it's difficult, particularly when the situation at present is never constant.
Hi, so this is a great question. This is something that's been happening with a lot of my coaching clients at present. The conversation, everyone's like, dude, so the conversation is starting around boundaries, because everything is happening from home. Work's happening from home. Enjoyment's happening from home. Family's happening from home.
Parenting's happening from home.
Everything's at home. Before it was like you disconnect, you go to the office. You did something there, you ate, you left the office to eat. You'd go eat and then come back. So you had all these spaces in which you do things. But right now, there's a subliminal stress because there's no boundaries on your space, right? So it has this really funky way. And so people are like, I need discipline. Like I'm realizing that I really need discipline. And it is one of the blessings of this time. But let's look, like I'm just going to go at this the way that I like to coach people into it. And if it's not for you, don't stress. There's many other ways to approach discipline, but I'm just going to go the way that I like to. So discipline, let's change the languaging around it first and foremost. If you want to stay Anglo about it, call it blisscipline. Yeah. So blisscipline is actually you having a routine that actually supports your day-to-day. So you waking up and doing mindfulness and expressing gratitude takes 5 minutes. Yeah. But it activates you into a state that you're really good, right? So it's blisscipline. It's not discipline, because when you talk about discipline, these words have charges, like energetic feelings behind them. Discipline, because your teachers taught you about discipline, they whacked you with rulers and shit. So no, discipline feels kind of like military, but blisscipline is like an activation. I like to go way further than that, right? And so let's go back to our roots and let's not have a conversation around discipline. Let's not have a conversation around discipline. Let's talk about sadhana.
How would you translate sadhana?
Sadhana, okay, cool. Give me 2 secs. This was something. Sadhana is a Sanskrit word that means a daily spiritual practice. It's the foundation for your personal, individual effort to communicate with the divine inside of you and all around you. It is the main tool you use to work on yourself to achieve your purpose in life. Right? So when you start thinking about it as sadhana, rather than discipline, right? When you think about sadhana, it's like there's this emotional content that is like, oh yeah, I do this for me. Like this is me being whole and centered. And this is my relationship with Guru and God. And this is why I do this, right? Like I work out to keep this body healthy because it's a blessing from God, right? I legitimately put good food in my body because it's a blessing from God. I take time to meditate because it's important to me, because that makes sure that I make good decisions in my day-to-day life. So I don't, that's part of who I want to show up as, right? Now, discipline is like, yeah, you should do these things so you end up as a better person. But sadhana is like, no, that's building my constitution as this person. I'm excited by that. Does it sound like a lot of work and a life journey? Yeah. But anything that's worth having generally has been. But there's like a deeper sort of conversation to be had around sadhana. And so that reframe from the outset is really powerful. And so going, okay, I'm doing this to serve myself so I can serve all the bits of my life better, that whole conversation that we had earlier. And then from there, the practical bits, right? So if we can dial into it a little bit, it works really better for me, not necessarily for you, to have things structured in a way like a morning practice and an evening practice are great. Yeah. So if you can wake up and program things, the easiest way to install a habit, guys, is to stick a habit between 2 habits. You might have a habit that you don't even know you've got. So for me, I'll just give you a quick idea. So now this is a bit personal, pardon me for going there, but this is full transparency. So between the bathroom and the shower, right? That's a habit that I do every morning. It's like, boom, eliminate, shower, right? From there, it's like, whoa, hang on a sec. I want to do 40 squats a day. Like, I just want to do 40 squats. Like, I know that'll be good for me. Like, just get the energy moving first thing in the morning. So now the habit is eliminate 40 squats, shower. Most of you are brushing your teeth unconsciously. Like, you brush your teeth every night. Cool. So it could be a matter of brushing my teeth and doing my gratitude practice at the same time. The habit's there. Just tack your old habit onto your new habit. Will you nail it all the time? No, but it takes 2 to 8 weeks to build a habit, right? We can go into the process of how your brain forms habits, but that's a whole other 10-minute spiel. So let's not go there for now. Happy to have that conversation another day. But that will support you basically forming habits. So take your habits onto other habits. A morning practice works really well because waking up is a bit of a habit. Sorry, I got a bit deep there, but waking up is also a habit. Yeah. And then you can form your habits based around that. And then also in the evening, going to bed is a bit of a habit. Brushing your teeth is a habit. So maybe something just before that. So packing in your habits in and around there, your sadhana pieces in and around there, just to give you a clear idea. So for me, it's wake up, meditate, eliminate shower, squats, Wim Hof breathing, stretching, morning smoothie, make sure it's got all the good herbs, turmeric and all the good things in there. And then from there, boom, start your day. Yeah. Now for me, that's it just happens as one big flow. It just happens that way because I do it consistently. Do I nail it every day? No. Am I hard on myself in the days that don't nail it? No. Does the sadhana hold space for me as a meditation and go, hey, you're getting too busy because you missed your practice 2 days in a row? And it's like, oh yeah, like what's going on? Like I'm not prioritizing myself. I'm stressed. I'm jacked. Come back home. The conversation around resilience. Come back home. Look after yourself. Right? So the sadhana holds space for you then, for you to look after yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's all about awareness there, Amrit, and you've definitely made us aware of a lot of things that I don't think a lot of us were. So thank you so much for today. Like this has just been beyond incredible. Thank you so much for all your thoughts and your wise words. We'll definitely put all this recording on our social media platforms and with all your details. So if anyone who has participated today needs to reach out to you with for more information or sessions, they will definitely do so. Thank you so much. I think Harjot's been writing down notes as well. So, so I think we'll probably do like a little written recap as well for all the key takeaways that we've done because we've just gone a little bit over time. But thank you so much, Amrit. You have been an amazing, amazing guest. And I'm sure everyone here has appreciated your time from a valuable Saturday.
Thanks
given to
guys so
us.
much. It means so much to me. Yeah, just, you know, so like being here and being of service is just an absolute honor. And hey guys, like now is a key time where, you know, we do feel isolated. Community is a big thing. If you don't have anyone to reach out to, send me an email. Totally here. We're all in
Very
this
kind
together.
of you. Thank you so
just be
much.
sure to
Yeah.
stay connected to community and YSPN as well. I'm sure there's plenty of community.
100%. Please connect
Stay
to
connected.
us. Like we have a huge network and a really, really good and strong network of volunteers who just want to help out. So please reach out to us as well. If
Why am I not surprised? Love it.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Harjil, would you like to add anything on to that?
I have 100 questions, but we don't have time for 100 questions.
No, it's okay. Sure. Any comments or anything, and I'm sure we can just wrap up for the day then.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much, Harjil.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you so much, Amrit. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
That's mine.
I think we can end the meeting.